Meeting between the Franklin Township trustees and the city of Kent, and why that is because that's owned by both entities. At this time, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Mr. Amrine?
Here.
Ms. Selko? Here. Mr. Clapper?
Here.
Mr. De Leon?
Here.
Mr. Hook?
Here.
Ms. Rosenberg? Here. Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Here.
Mr. Sidoti?
Here.
Mr. Turner?
Here.
Ms. Kapusta? Here. Mr. Russell?
Here.
Mr. Swan?
Here. Okay, tonight's business is first is we need to appoint a person for the at-large position at the cemetery and also fill the unexpired term that Mr. Luck retired from there. This applicant can be from either the township or the city. It doesn't have to be one or the other. So at this time, we have 3 applicants. I'm going to read something so everybody hears it. Thank you for applying for the at-large position of the Cemetery Board. The term is for an unexpired term ending in 12/31/24, and the new term is starting of January 1st, 25. There's one person or one position, but there's 3 applicants applying for this. With that said, if you're not successful in winning this position, the township and the city is always looking for good people to fill their boards and committees, so feel free to research that way. At this time, I'm going to ask the 3 applicants to go out to the door to the right and sit there, and we're going to draw who comes first, and we'll go with that for now.
Because we've never done this before.
You're right, we haven't.
We haven't.
James Strobel can stay in the room. He was drawn first.
Oh,
You drew already, okay.
what, Jim? Oh, all right.
We got a motion coming. We're going to change it.
Are they out? We don't,
Atta girl,
we
Tom.
find out as we interview people, they kind of jump on board what the person said before, so this is a way of kind of controlling that. And if you don't like it how it's done, fire me.
Nice.
Okay, Mr.
Who
Strobel.
was it, Jim?
Jim Strobel.
Jim, come up to the microphone. Please state your name and the interest of why you want to serve on the cemetery board. Between your application and presentation, we may or may not ask questions. And thank you again for applying.
My name is Jim Strobel. I live on Hudson Road, Franklin Township. I've lived in Kent or Franklin Township since 1978. I've had a good life. I had a good career with the Army in Goodyear. And since retiring, I just find stuff to fill my time with. I like to volunteer. I'm a 30-year volunteer with Ronald McDonald House of Akron, including 20 years on the board, including board president. I'm 30 years with Boy Scouts with Troop 253 and 7253 in Kent. For 5 years, I headed Kent Ride for Pedal with Pete here in Kent and the Portage County area. And I just enjoy filling my time and serving. It's the way I was raised, and like I said, I enjoy doing it.
Are you done? Are you ready for questions, sir?
Sure. Hit me.
Are there questions? Anybody?
I just have...
Mike, you're on the cemetery board.
Yeah, I know.
You ought to have a question.
Now, didn't your son do an Eagle project?
Yes, our younger son, Dan, his Eagle project was he did work at the Pioneer Cemetery. They laid the pavers into the entranceway. They mapped all the grave sites that were able to read. They cleaned up some of the markers. They cleared out the northwest corner of, there was a lot of overgrowth and stuff there. So that was his Eagle project.
Very good.
There are other questions? Roger.
Yeah, Mr. Stroll, first of all, thanks for applying. You know, sometimes it's hard to get people to apply for these opening things. I'm kind of curious about, what do you know about the cemetery and the cemetery board?
The cemetery board, I don't know a whole lot about. I've heard a little bit about it. The cemetery itself I enjoy the history of it, between it, Breakneck Cemetery, and Russell Cemetery, which is almost across the street from where I live. Interesting. Cemeteries are interesting because they reflect the community. I grew up in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, home of Little League Baseball. Shameless plug there, sorry. And within a half a mile of my house was a huge cemetery, 340 acres, Wildwood Cemetery. Hills and lots of hills. And we spent a lot of the summer up there riding bikes and take a picnic lunch and go up through there, look at the markers. And like I say, they reflect the community. The better the cemetery looks, the more proud the community can be of it, and the more people are attracted to the community, I think.
Anybody else? I got one. I was on the cemetery board for 13 years before Mike went out there. And this might be hypothetical, but the board generally meets once a month for general operating reasons, okay bills, and discuss monthly operations of the cemetery. I've had this happen to me, I think, at least a half a dozen times when I was on there. And the answer, you're probably going to say yes, you will, but I'm going to watch your face while you say this. But on Saturday, when the help with Nell, I got a call to go out and help with interments. Would you do that?
Sure. Yeah.
And I want to say sure, and I want to watch your face. All right, I got it.
Oh, one thing, from what I understand, the board is responsible for some of the fiscal elements of the cemetery. When I was with the Ronald McDonald House, there was a fallout there, sort of a fallout in the board. I'm fiscally conservative, and some of the newer members weren't so much so. So we worked through it, and as a result, that's when the new house was built down there. We went from a 20-room house, headed towards a 60-room house. We had the funds to operate a 20-room house without doing a lot of fundraising and so forth. When the house was built, that was one of the requirements set forth, was that the house could operate itself. So an endowment was established when we sought the funding. I wasn't there when the house was built, but I came on shortly after, and we had that endowment. But when they started talking about building a bigger house, then people just wanted to, use up all the funds we had. So it caused some problems, but like I say, we worked through it. The house is bigger now. It didn't make 60 rooms because they didn't convert the old house. The old house still stands, but they're not using it as housing for parents and children in children's family or in children's hospital. Hopefully in the future it'll get used. So right now the house is 40 rooms, and they have to do a lot of fundraising to keep it going.
Okay, any more questions? All right.
I have one question. I'm not sure if Mr. Strobel will be able to answer this, but it seems that one of the things that we get involved in on a regular basis is to provide pay increases to the employees. Is that something board members do?
That's
That
something
we
we're going to do
recommend?
tonight.
We do it here tonight.
We're going to
But the
do it
board
here in a few
members
minutes.
would come to an agreement to bring it
Yes.
to... Okay.
And they're meager, they're small increases, believe me. I get the same guys come back every year. Some of them are making like $10 an hour. And, I mean, just to weed, eat, and mow, that's more or less what they do. And they help out with the burials and stuff, so.
All right. Well, that answers my question, really.
Anybody else? All right, Jim, you can take your choice. You can go out there and sit, or because nobody's going to hear you again, you can stand here.
Whatever's preferable
And it's
to the board.
your choice.
Thank you.
You can have a seat. Stay.
Huh?
Yeah.
Thank you for applying.
Yes, they can. They didn't.
Okay, next is Judith Shaw.
Microphone's on out there.
Same as Judy?
Speak.
Seemed like he would. I liked how he said they worked it out.
Rhonda's.
Oh, Rhonda did.
I employed Rhonda today. I had to go to the higher staff level.
Yes.
I don't know how many members are.
Quite nice, super nice lady.
Usually there's only a...
Something came, we both got came.
Who's the speaker?
Hi.
Yeah.
Judy, we ask that you please state your name and your interest of serving on the cemetery board.
Okay. Hi, folks. My name is Judy Shaw. I live over on Fairview Drive. And my interest in serving on the Board of Trustees for Standing Rock is fundamental because 3 of my beloved family are there. And I'll be there one day, so I want to make sure it's in good shape. I have found that Jean Crest is an amazing person and takes excellent care of the place, along with everybody else who volunteers there. And I just, I love being in Kent. I love Standing Rock. I'm writing a book about the Cuyahoga River, and the first picture in the book is Standing Rock. Speaks to me. Is that
Okay, we're gonna, between your application and your presentation, we may or may not ask you questions, so I think that's the time we're at. Do we have questions?
You want to go first, Mike?
I'm not, no, I don't have
Oh,
anything.
okay. Judy, I was
Hey,
curious.
how are you?
Good, good. How do you, what does the board do? What do you know about the board and what their functions are?
Frankly, I know very little.
Okay, fair.
Um,
What do you think the board does? How's that? I'm throwing you a line, Judy.
Touche. I think they advise. I think they make fairly simple decisions regarding the management of the facility. And I expect they represent the interests of the community.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Roger.
Anybody else? I have one question, and it may be hypothetical, and I'm asking each applicant for it.
Okay.
The board generally meets once a month, generally to okay bills and talk about everyday operational things out there. If the time came on a Saturday, would you have time to come if they were shorthanded to maybe help with an interment?
Yes.
Okay. I want to say yes again. I'm watching. Everybody's going to say yes, but I want to watch your face.
Yes.
All right, I got it. Gwen?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. In looking over your resume and your application, is there any particular experience that you have, either on a board or relevant experience, that you'd like to share with us that you think would make you an ideal candidate?
That would make me an ideal candidate. That's a difficult.
That would make make you a good candidate.
Yes. I'm on the Edith Chase Symposium Board.
That's right.
And God bless Edith Chase for everything she did for the city of Kent and all the rest of us. I also serve on the advisory committee for East Main Street with that kid over there, who's an outstanding member of your team. And if there's something else I do for the city, frankly, I forget what it is.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Glenn.
Any other questions? Township trustees have questions? Okay, your choice now is you can go back in the hallway or join us now. Stay in the room.
I'll stay in the room.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next,
Thank you, yes.
last person is Paul Tusick.
She's great. We tried to, she was like a state planning director. She just lost her.
Okay, please state your name and your interest of serving on the cemetery board. And then
Yeah.
between your application and your presentation now, we may or may not ask you questions after.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm Paul Tuchek. I live in Kent. I've lived here a long time. And I've, been through the cemetery a lot of times, and I've always appreciated how well it looked and presented itself. And it seems like there's a lot going for it with, it is being maintained well as opposed to some of the other places I've seen. And I thought that I would, if there needs to be someone who helps bring that forward, I'd like to participate in that.
That it?
That's it.
Okay, are there questions? Mr. Sitterly? Oh.
Sure, Mr. Mayor, I'll jump in.
Well, we're kind of asking the same question.
Okay. Paul, what do you think the board does? Or do you have any idea what the cemetery board does? What in your mind?
I believe the board is there to review the plans that, and to make the ongoing operations of the cemetery. If there's any decisions as to how, you know, what kind of specific efforts need to be done going forward, I would assume that the board would help decide which ones they would take. And to make sure that, to kind of pay attention to the assets of the cemetery, to make sure that they're being maintained well, and I would assume that it also manages the budget of the cemetery.
A follow-up on that, Paul, what kind of background do you have that you feel would help provide that type of leadership on that board?
None specific to cemetery administration. I have, you know, I have my own house in the city that, you know, I maintain, and I assume that the cemetery would have a lot of the same concerns that I would have maintaining my own house. You know, is the paving, is the pavement right? Is the ramp breaking? Do I have, you know, is the roof leaking? That sort of thing. Also, my work experience isn't in, you know, anything that would be pertaining to this. I'm a computer programmer and systems analyst, and so, but I think that just, and I've, you know, seen how one of the things that I work with at my job is I work with the print and mailing facility, and we have a lot of concerns, you know, when with that, you know, there's maintenance that has to be happened to, like, the mail inserters, and there's we have to prepare for you know, what kind of resources the mailing is going to require. You know, is it, you know, are we going to have enough rolls of paper, enough mail inserts and envelopes and all that? And I think that helps a bit, knowing you know, how operations work.
Thank you.
Glenn?
No, I think Roger touched on, I was just going to ask about
Did I
experience.
steal
Thank
your
you very
question?
much.
I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Oh,
Anybody else? My question is, and it may be hypothetical, but the board generally meets once a month for general operating reasons, paying bills, okaying bills, and that type of stuff. If in an emergency on a Saturday, they were shorthanded, would you be available? And I want you to look at me when you answer this, because I know what you're going to answer, but I can tell by your face. Would you be there for help with an interment?
Help with a board meeting, or help with, you know?
Help with an interment on a Saturday if they were
with an
shorthanded.
internment.
Look
Yes.
at me.
Yes, I would. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Hopefully you're
And-
okay with it.
Yeah.
I got it. No, I served on that board for 13 years, and a few Saturdays I had to go up there myself, so that's the reason I asked the question.
I would have fun doing it. I'm sorry.
All right. Okay, with that, your choice is go back, no,
No.
come here and
he's
sit.
Yeah.
Is anybody out still in the hall?
No. That's three.
We're good.
Where's Mr. Strobel? Oh, he's hiding back there. All right, like, this is the decision between the Franklin Township trustees and the City Council of the City of Kent. There's 9 voting members on council, 3 with the Franklin Township trustees. That ends up being 12. Half of that's 6. You have to have 1 more vote, so when the motion is given, they'll have to have 7 affirmative votes to win the position. So at this time, is there a motion from the floor?
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Jim Strobel. Second.
Second? Who seconded?
I did.
Mike? Is there discussion? Is there further discussion? Any other discussion?
Yep, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I'd like it noted that we had 3 outstanding candidates. I think that it's, I really appreciate all 3 of them coming out and standing here and giving us their background. And I think that should be noted.
Okay. Heidi?
Yeah, I want to echo what Roger said, but I think I'm going to reserve my vote for another candidate.
That's fine.
So, I just
If we
wanted to
don't get
mention
7
that.
votes, another motion can be made.
Okay, very good.
Is there any more discussion?
A quick question. So in choosing to reserve your vote, would you be required to vote no on this, or just remain silent? Vote no?
No.
Okay.
Mhm.
Any other? This time we need a roll vote, right?
Just a voice vote, no.
Okay. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No?
I think it passes.
It does.
All right. Mr. Strobel,
Well, it will be a mystery.
congratulations.
Maybe.
I bought a lot, in my first complaint, you might as well hear it, I bought a lot in January, I've never got the deed for it yet. See what you can do about that. All right.
Order.
I need a motion to adjourn from the we're going on to, we need a motion to
Authorize.
authorize Mr. Strobel.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Jeff. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, would the clerk read draft number 2024-037?
Draft 2024-037, a joint resolution appointing Jim Strobel, an at-large trustee, to the Standing Rock Cemetery Board of Trustees in accordance with the provisions of the Ohio Revised Code, Section 759.36, effective June 1st, 2024, and ending December 31st, 2027, and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second.
Second by Jeff. Please call the roll for suspension.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Ms. Selko?
Yes.
Mr. Clapper?
Yes.
Mr. DeLeon?
Yes.
Mr. Hook?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Kapusta? Mr. Russell? Mr. Swan?
Yes.
Move adoption.
Second.
Second by Heidi.
Yeah.
Any discussion on this? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Ms. Selko?
Yes.
Mr. Clapper?
Yes.
Mr. DeLeon?
Yes.
Mr. Hook?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Kapusta? Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. Swan?
Yes.
Ordinance 2024-037, or Resolution 2024-037 is passed.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2024-38 in title only?
Draft Joint Resolution Number 2024-038, a joint resolution of the Board of Trustees of Franklin Township and the Council of City of Kent, Ohio, pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code, Section 759.34, determining that the rate of taxes to be levied upon all the taxable property of said municipality and said township for cemetery purposes for the tax year of 2024 shall be and hereby is fixed in an amount equal to .60 mils for the City of Kent, .60 mils for Franklin Township, and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second.
Second by Chris. Please call the roll for suspension.
Ms. Selko?
Yes.
Mr. Clapper?
Yes.
Mr. DeLeon?
Yes.
Mr. Hook?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Kapusta? Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. Swan?
Yes.
And Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Move adoption.
Second.
Second
Yeah.
by Roger. Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Ms. Selko?
Yes.
Mr. Clapper?
Yes.
Mr. DeLeon?
Yes.
Mr. Hook?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Kapusta? Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. Swan?
Yes.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Resolution 2024-38 has passed.
Okay, Heidi, this one refers to the question you asked about who discusses raises. It's us. Would the clerk read draft number 2024-39 in title only?
Draft Joint Resolution Number 2024-039, a joint resolution granting salary and hourly pay raises to the personnel of the Standing Rock Cemetery and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second.
Second by Melissa. Please call the roll for suspension.
Mr. Clapper?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Hook?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Kapusta? Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. Swan?
Yes.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Ms. Selko?
Yes.
Move adoption.
Second.
Second by Mike. Any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. Clapper?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Hook?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Kapusta? Mr. Russell? Mr. Swan?
Yes.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Ms. Selko?
Yes.
Resolution 2024-039 passes.
Okay, thank you. Once again, Judith and Paul, you know, the township and the city are always looking for good board people, and I appreciate you applying for this. It's a hard decision when you have one position and 3 applicants in there, but feel free to, you know, check with the clerk from both entities and see what's available. With that, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Mike.
Gwen.
All right. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We'll see you next year, Township Trustees. It's always nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
And you're welcome to stay, but, all right. I understand.
You mean they don't want to? All right.
I agree. I agree. I'll make the motion. This time, we're going to move into the committee of the whole of the, actually, the regular council meeting of May 1st. First up is Park and Recreation update. Angela? You have 3 minutes to state your name and address and get your plan.
It'll take a little longer than that. Good evening. We are here tonight to present the much-anticipated Kent Parks and Recreation Master Plan for the next 10 years. The last master plan we have on file is from 1995, so I think this was long overdue. This started back before COVID, and we've hit a few speed bumps along the way that have delayed this a few times. But we've been working diligently to collect information to put this this master plan together and to put this presentation together for you guys tonight. We've had many, many meetings over the last couple years. We have started with small focus groups where we identified key stakeholders in the community, and we invited them to get their opinions and input to go into this plan. We had representation from City Council, Gwen. We had our Park Board staff members, members from Kent City Schools, members from Kent State University, and we had a lot of parents of participants and children who participate in our after-school programs and our youth athletics. Excuse me. We conducted surveys. We held multiple open houses, all in an effort to identify what this community wants. Our company, Branstetter Carroll, they are the company we've been working with. The master plan itself is over 400 pages. So we are giving you the Cliff Notes version. We will have a link on our website to the 400 pages for anyone who's interested in reading everything in full. But tonight you get the highlights. So as part of Branstetter's agreement with the city, they are, part of their scope of services is to put a presentation together for city officials. So we do, I was told I was not allowed to have over 80 slides. So we did condense it to about 15 to 18. So hopefully that's manageable. And I'd like to introduce Keith Rodenhauser from Branstetter Carroll, and he's going to go through the condensed highlights for you.
All right. I'm happy to be here. I want to say that Angela and her staff have been a pleasure to work with through this whole process. And I'm happy to be here today to talk about the findings. I've done this before, and I know that nobody wants to sit through a half-an-hour presentation. So I try to go fast and hit the key points, and if you want more information, it is out there. So I'll just start with, what is the purpose? Why do we have a plan? The main thing is to have a vision for the future, the next 10 years for Parks and Recreation again. You want to make sure that what the park is offering is aligned with what the community wants and needs, and you want to address any gaps in services that you may have. That's both programs, facilities, and so on. Make sure that the department is keeping up to date with trends and changes in the needs of the community, and as well as the national trends. Know what it's going to cost. It's a big issue. Obviously, offering these services and these facilities is not free, and you need to know what that might cost. And then you need a plan in order to be fiscally responsible and have sustainable operations and efficiency. But one important thing that some don't always think about is you want to make sure you're not duplicating services. You don't need to, if the Parks and Recreation Department does not need to offer everything. There's other organizations offering services already, and there's no reason to duplicate those services. And sometimes through the process, you can find out additional opportunities for partnerships. So we're the experts, we're the consultant, right? But we know Kent well. My firm has actually done other projects in the city, as you probably know. But we don't know the community as well as the people who live and work here. So because of that, we have a steering committee to guide us throughout the process. And it's a key group of staff, some city officials, residents, board members, who are both interested and active in the community and want to make sure that Parks and Recreation is well represented into the future. And everything kind of passes through them throughout the process. We had 4 meetings in total, each about 2 hours. And that committee helps provide critical information and knowledge that we may not have, not being local. And most importantly, they help promote engagement opportunities to make sure that we're able to engage with the community. And then come up with that vision for the future. We guided them through a strategic process to come up with a mission, vision, goals for the future, which I'll tell you in a little bit. But ultimately, it's to make sure that this plan is your community's plan. We prepare it, but it's your plan. It's a 4-phase process. We keep it kind of simple. The first phase is learning about the community, looking at the facilities that you have, doing some mapping to see where they are, comparing it to other agencies, looking at your budgets. The second phase is the most important one, talking to the community, finding out what the community what it wants, and then coming up with that vision for the future. What does it look like? And then ultimately, the plan and the recommendations for what you're going to do to accomplish that vision. So what do we find? Overall, when it comes to your location of services, you're doing pretty well. About 2/3 of the population lives within a walking distance to a park, which is great. And we did a level of services where we looked at the walk and drive times to a whole series of different park types and facilities. And based on that, 80% of the population lives in areas with a medium level of service or better, which is great. But what we did see is that a lot of those amenities are older and in need of some improvement. But there are some opportunities in your parks to maybe add some amenities as well. And there were quite a few ADA deficiencies where you didn't have necessarily the access needed to get to some of the amenities. Your population has kind of stayed steady, and you have a lower population, or a lower median age, which would be a surprise to no one, with the university. But you do have a growing 65-plus population like the rest of the country. Looking at the level of service for facilities, overall, you've got a pretty good level of service for the facilities that you have. You don't have any tennis courts. But you're doing fairly well outside of some of the diamond fields. But overall, I'd say you're doing pretty well. But looking at your staff, you actually have fewer staff than the benchmarks. So each staff is maintaining a larger amount of land. And you're spending less per acre as well. And then your operating budget and the revenues are lower than those benchmark communities, which was 24 agencies with populations between 18 and 40,000 in 8 different states. So the most important part, as I said, is learning what the community wants to see. And one part of that was doing a random sample survey of households throughout Kent. And the purpose of that survey is to get a representative result of what the population wants. We also did a web and handout survey. And that survey, the goal is to reach as many people as possible. And you're more likely then to reach the more frequent users of your facilities, but that's still an important group to reach. We also did a series of stakeholder groups, as Angela mentioned, various different groups and interest groups throughout the community. And we had 2 open house workshops where people could come in and talk to us, and we would listen to what their needs are. So what did we hear? One of the main things people would like to see is connectivity and trails. You've already got some great trails, but people want more. They're always going to want more. And they're going to want easier access to their trails, so they don't have to drive before they then use the trails. Athletic field improvements. As I said before, when it comes to quantity, you're doing pretty well, but a lot of those facilities need improvements. Pickleball courts. I don't know how familiar you are with pickleball. Yes, it is the fastest growing sport, and it has been for several years, and it doesn't seem to be stopping. I keep thinking it will, but I check the trends, and every year it's even bigger than before. And it's not just older people. It's all ages. There's a need for recreation center, indoor space, especially for seniors. And then some new park features that you don't currently have, like a splash pad, a dog park, natural areas.
Nobody wants.
And then preservation of natural spaces that you have. People are concerned about that. And then upgrading some of your playgrounds, making sure that you've got accessible and adaptive equipment so that everyone can participate. And then support amenities. These are not the reason people go to the parks, but it helps their experience be more pleasant, helps them stay longer. Those are restrooms, signage that tell you where to find the amenities that you're looking for, places to sit, shade, and so on. Looking at programs, people want more concerts, performances, basically activities that bring people together, where you can see your neighbors and kind of just get out into the community. Movies, it's kind of similar there, special events. All these community events, it's a trend throughout the whole country. Everybody wants to see their neighbors. It's only increased since people could not do so during COVID. 50-plus programs, as I said, your population is behind the trend, but you still have an aging population and more demand for active programs for ages 50-plus. They don't like to be called seniors. Prefer active adults or some other term.
Seasoned.
Called season.
I like old. You know, that
Yeah,
word.
well, some people don't like old.
Oh, some people. I wear it well. You know.
Mature.
Nature programs, and then fitness classes for all ages, and youth sports improvements, and it's mostly related to the facilities and access to them. So just a quick summary, looking system-wide, upgrades to what you have already was really number one. Improved maintenance of what you have so that you can keep it at a top level once you get it up there. And then connectivity between your parks. People want trails and they want easy access. And then everyone has access to nature. And then ADA access. We heard some of that, but it's also something that you need to do. And then restrooms, support feature, places to sit, and signage. Make sure you can find the parks and all of the features within. Some specific facilities, indoor space came up a lot. There's a lot of needs for indoor space. The community doesn't have a lot right now. They only have 2 small facilities that operated within the department, and then other space has to be rented from others, whether it's the university or somewhere else. Pickleball courts. Until you build some pickleball courts, you're going to hear about that. And you're going to still hear about it probably after you do. But it's a fast-growing sport. A dog park. Until you have a dog park, people ask you for a dog park. And if you don't have a dog park, they'll make a dog park. Upgrade some of the playgrounds. Aquatic facilities, most likely a splash pad for you in the near term. And then some picnic areas. Program-wise, same things I mentioned before. Fitness and wellness, community events, active adult programs, marketing. A lot of what we hear from the community, you already offer. But if they don't know about it, it doesn't exist. So one way you can help meet some of these needs is make people aware of them, whether it's by Parks and Rec or a partner. Which leads to partnership opportunities to make sure you can maximize what's available and continue to involve the community as improvements are made. Got to find some funding, right? This stuff costs money, and they have to find a way to find that money. And then finally, nature programs. The path forward, the strategic plan. The new mission for the department, you have a mission before this, but you didn't have a vision, right? So, through our meetings with our steering committee, we came up with a mission to provide exceptional parks, programs, and experiences for all, inclusive of everyone. And then the vision, this is not today, but where you're trying to get to in 10 years or possibly beyond. Our parks and programs improve the health and well-being of the whole Kent community and beyond. That and beyond was important because Kent serves a lot of people beyond just the city boundary. And then the values, excellence, opportunity, sustainability, and inclusion. And then we have 4 goals, each with a series of objectives. Exceptional spaces, enriching connections, exceptional operations, and enriching experiences. Each of these objectives has a series of actions specifically for how to accomplish that objective. Finally, get quickly into some of the recommendations. To start with, upgrade the existing parks and facilities. Some need to be, some just need minor upgrades, some need total replacement. Address some of the things that have just been pushed off. Improve ADA accessibility. Make sure everybody can get to your parks and use those facilities. Look at the potential for a recreation center. You've thought about it before, I know, but it's a need that's not going to go away, and it's a matter of what can you fund, what can you operate. Pickleball, got to find a place to put that. And then add a dog park somewhere. Upgrade the amphitheater at Fred Fuller Park would be a big thing that would help accomplish those events and performances and even movies. A lot of the programs that people would like to see would benefit greatly from improvements to that amphitheater. And then continue to improve trail connectivity throughout the community. Upgrade and replace playgrounds throughout the system. You need a plan to replace a playground every few years to catch up with where you are today. Most of them are aging. Update and modernize athletic fields, especially some of those baseball fields. Improve access to the river. You've got a great asset, and there's opportunity to take better advantage of that asset in many different ways, different types of programs, access fishing, canoeing, and so on. And then utilize any new facilities that you develop for additional programming opportunities. Add shade, improve restrooms, add them where they're not available, provide water and seating. And finally, signage to make sure people can find everything. So what does it take to get there? You have to make sure that the department has the staff needed to maintain these facilities and offer the programs that people want. Continue to engage the community. Make sure as you implement the plan that the facilities you're adding are what and where the community wants it, and that the programs are in response to their needs. Continue to look for partnerships. Again, Angela and her team doesn't have to do everything. They can't do everything. So they need to continue to work with others who can offer some of the programs that they cannot. Partnerships and marketing, that if they can help the community understand what's available, that goes a long way, because there are lots of opportunities out there that the community is not aware of, both by the Parks and Rec Department and others. And it's a simple thing to do, but it takes some effort. a Parks Foundation can help raise funds to implement some of these plans and even help with some of the operations. And then having a plan in place is a really important element to qualifying for grants. Some sponsorships for programs could be available. And finally, potentially a taxpayer-approved bond to fund these capital improvements because they can be costly. One of the questions we asked in the survey of that random sample was whether or not they would be likely to support a bond to fund improvements that they would like to see. And 70% indicated support, and only 12% said they would oppose. So that indicates that you have a high likelihood of passing a bond to support implementing this plan. Whether or not it passes comes down to how much you're asking for and what you're doing.
Yep.
So Angela said it's a 400-page document. Well, this is a one-page summary. Also included in the executive summary is designed so that Angela can put it up on the wall, poster size. You can learn the highlights of the plan in 5 minutes or less. And then at the end of the plan, the last chapter is the action plan. That's that checklist that is mostly for Angela and the board to kind of set priorities and start checking them off when they complete them. And it has a timeline for everything. It has the type of project, who's going to do it. Sometimes it's not the Parks and Recreation Department. The type of funding, and then where in the document you can find the supporting data. I think there's 120 or so of these actions in the document. And that ends my presentation. Any
Okay,
questions?
we're ready for questions.
All right.
Heidi?
Yeah, I really commend you on putting this together and all the effort that went into this and all the community participation, because I did go to at least one of those public meetings and put my stickers in certain
Yes.
places. Pickleball, pickleball, pickleball. But one question I had is, people always seem to want more of those music, togetherness kind of activities, but we have a downtown that offers a lot. And, you know, sometimes it seems to me, the way that my grandkids are, we love going downtown. There's all these places to hang out, see and be seen, and there's activities, and a playground there, and a park by the river. So could there be some redundancy there that we could say, let's focus on something else, even though this might be the highest interest of people? Let's direct people to some of the activities that are already happening.
So yes, we talked to those groups.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the difference would be the times that these programs are offered, the types of performances, and also you would be able to offer much larger ones. And you could do them at times when you wouldn't be able to do it in the downtown, especially during the day. A lot of the performances are in the evening. You could have an all-day event, for example. And there'd be opportunities to potentially rent the facility out to others to provide events. Yeah.
Just to kind of go further into that, I think there's room for both. I think there are different types of events. I think we would never step on, like, what Main Street Kent does. We wouldn't, you know, organize events of that magnitude that take place downtown. But I think there is room for family events, you know, free events in the parks where, you know, families bring blankets or chairs, and we have maybe some food trucks available, and we, you know, show movies, you know, a couple times during the summer. So I think there's two types of events that could all complement each other without being redundant. That's just my opinion.
Can I jump in on that too? Only to say that, maybe getting off the event topic, but Angela has had conversations with me about, as some of these elements of the plan, the priorities have been identified, she has said, you know, I think some of these might fit really well in and around the downtown, and to really kind of create that synergy where, to the point you're making, that we already have a lot of people there, and while they're there, we know Dan Smith Park gets heavily used, and she's helping me figure out how to replace some stuff that's getting worn out.
Yes.
So that's a good thing, good problem to have, but could there be more? And she's already talked about that, and we've had, you know, some initial discussions even with Jim Bowling in terms of, since he tends to be involved in the infrastructure, and so the point is, we agree with you, and if it's not events, we're looking even beyond events at other stuff that we could do in the downtown.
Further questions?
Yeah.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yeah, you indicated that taxpayers approved the idea of floating a bond issue for facilities.
Yes.
Okay. When we begin to expand facilities, we certainly, part of the thing already indicates that we have, let us say, a limited amount of staff, and that we're really not staffed appropriately. We can't use bond dollars for the staffing, so how would that be addressed in this plan? I haven't had time to go through 448 pages.
So there's multiple ways. I mean, some of it may need to come from the general fund, but some of it also could come from those sponsorships I mentioned. Some of the additional programs you might be able to charge a fee for, and any improvements you make to your facilities are also going to increase your rental fees and the demand for those rentals. Certainly you can't cover all of it, though, that way. But you can also get, you might also get some volunteers through that foundation.
Further questions?
I have a question. This is just a question probably showing my junior status in this council. The Kent State Rec Center, obviously a fantastic, huge indoor rec space. As an alum, they gave me a very cheap monthly rate, which is applied to my wife as well. I'm not sure if I just spoke to the right person, but we're paying about $25 a month per person to be able to go to the facility as a Kent State alum.
Where's Dana?
Dana, you look into that. He's
25.
So I assume this has been looked at, sort of, can we talk to the university, town and gown, about ways to synergize to get residents into that facility at a subsidized rate if they're not alums, or to even just boost the fact that there is a subsidized, that whatever that rate is now. So anyway.
Yeah, so we have had meetings in the past regarding that exact scenario, and obviously as an end result, at this point in time, there's nothing in place.
Yeah. Cool.
I will say a community recreation center definitely is different than university recreation center.
Okay.
I know I've heard many times since I've come to Kent, like, we don't need two in the same town. We already have one. But the feedback we actually get from residents is they're intimidated going onto campus. They are intimidated by parking. They think it's too costly. We kind of hear the reasons they feel are cons, they've identified as cons.
Yeah.
We're open to that. We actually have some additional meetings scheduled at this point in time to discuss this type of a partnership, because since the original meetings had taken place, there are different people in different positions. So we may be able to find a different outcome.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Heidi?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Gwen. Go ahead.
Along the same lines, we had in the past talked about having a healthcare partner for some kind of facility that would cater to the wide range of people that are in Kent, but especially to seniors. And that might still be on the table. Okay.
Is that it, Heidi?
Yep.
Gwen?
Yeah, I was just going to say, excellent job. Thank you very much. I had a chance to look over the entire thing, and it's impressive, and there was a lot of really interesting feedback there. I know that the list of things that they're listed as goals, I think you said there were like 100 action items or 100 type goal items. So this is just a first blush for us to have a look at it. My question is just that, I'm assuming that staff and the board is going to kind of go through and set priorities based on what the board feels and what you feel and what staff feel are attainable goals. And so we'll probably see some shifting around of some of these goals, right, based on what's most feasible in your eyes and in the staff size. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. you know, our next action steps are to, you know, prioritize, exactly as you just stated, what we feel is most feasible. You know, I know we touched on this, or Keith touched on this in the presentation. It takes dollar signs. I mean, it takes money to implement most of these items. And as much as we would love to be able to turn around tomorrow and say, we're going to build 8 pickleball courts, because that's what I want. But we have to have a plan on how to fund that, because, I mean, those are quite expensive. And at this point in time, we don't have that kind of money. So that's coming up with a plan on how to fund these items.
And this is just the first step in that, having this report. So if there's potential grant money or funding, and how exactly you want to go forward from here. This is a big box checked. Like, we've got the plan,
Yes.
and now it's organizing it in a way that works best
Yes.
for our community. Awesome.
Correct.
Thank you.
Further questions, Mr. Sidoni?
Yeah, I guess, Angela, you'd be the one I'd ask the question to. What's your expectation from City Council at this point?
At this point, we're not asking for anything. This is simply just to give the results of the survey. I know it's been asked many times, and just to give you a glimpse of what we're working on and what we're working towards and how that process looks, like what that process looks like. Will we be back to maybe ask for something at some point in time in the future? That's a possibility, but we're not asking for anything at this point in time.
Well, I don't know how my fellow council people feel, but I think it would be great to have a regular update as to the progress, if not
Sure.
monthly, maybe every other month, have you here. Maybe have some of your staff tell us how this is coming along in terms of what the impact on their jobs might be. I think that's real important. I think that the idea of marketing is not just, hey, look what we have. I think the idea of marketing is to, how can I put this nicely? I was going to say to be exposed, but that doesn't sound right. For exposure of everything, okay? And by doing that, I think public meetings, being able to articulate what's happening, and council having an understanding that we may have some ideas as to how to help. We may be able to provide some of that help that you may need in terms of, you know, programming, looking forward and everything. But we need to know what's going on. And I think that would be helpful, because you're on TV right now. I mean, people are watching this. So I think you got to take advantage of that. You got to, you know, they have to hear what's going on. So.
If I could add to that, it's important when you implement this plan to tell the community, we've done this in response to what you asked for. This is us responding to you. We listened. We heard you.
Absolutely.
Other questions?
Mr. Mayor, can I just say, you know, I know Roger's asked questions before, but I think it is important to just remind ourselves that council does have fiduciary role in the Parks and Rec. Now, I know Roger has talked about that role and how strong or less strong it's been. I know from a practical point of view, Parks has always relied on their own levies. I think when you look at the magnitude of the needs here, I think that warrants more discussion on, is that something we you know, does that historical policy still make us relevant as a park system? And I think, you know, I didn't see any data in this, but we know very clearly that a park system, a well-run park system and programs are very strong, very highly regarded and strong drivers of sense of community and the strength of the health of a community. I mean, it is more than just the Parks and Rec. It affects all our other services too. So they are a part of the city, and I know that's always kind of like, are they part of the city? Are they not? I just think, if nothing else, the money's going to drive this conversation. I think back to council. I think that's probably, I'm getting in her head, but I'm guessing she was sort of thinking, I may come back with an ask at some point. I don't know that. I mean, she was not going to do that without, you know, doing her due diligence, and it may just be a bond issue. It may be other things. But I know from the administrative perspective, we think we should be open as a staff and a council to that discussion, because I think it is imperative, and we're kind of at a, I don't want to say tipping point, but our systems are aging, you know, as was pointed out. Our staffing is below norms, standard benchmarks, we're below that. And I'll tell you, to Heidi's point, I can't remember if you were on council yet, Mike would have been. John Idoni had gone well down a path for a community rec center.
Yes.
And it had a health partner. And he did the full consultant study, and what they came back with, these things do not pay for themselves.
Yep.
Even with a health partner, the price points are such that you are going to have to subsidize it. And that ultimately led to nothing,
Right.
because no one was willing to come. I don't know if I'm guessing that math is still true, but, you know, like people used to say, well, Kent's not a wealthy enough community to restore its downtown. We did it. So I think this is kind of like the big next thing. You've often talked about, what's next, what's next? I think we really have to have some serious conversations about the role of Parks and Rec, and quite candidly, selfishly, how to leverage it to the community's benefit.
Yep.
That's really what I'm talking about. So that's my little piece. Sorry to editorialize there.
Heidi?
Yeah, one thing I was going to say, and I struggled to make it into the form of a question, but I found it interesting that a pool did not come up at the high level, and that was something that we have floated in the past. And I think the people of Kent are practical, they're pragmatic. And we also looked at the financials for that, to run a pool, indoor pool, outdoor pool, and, you know, I think that it seems like the people of Kent, we have desires, but we're not looking at something out and over the top. So I think that is the case, is that we need to be very strategic, and also really hone in on what are our needs, not necessarily our greatest and most amazing desires, but what can we do as a community without putting it at risk. So thank you. And thank you for the citizens who really are very pragmatic.
I was wondering, once I got educated from my clerk and Dave Rohr's administrative assistant about pickleball, I looked up and I read a little bit on it, but you can retrofit a tennis court for dual purposes, and that's a cheap way of going right now until the long-range courts could be made. Is that something?
It works as an interim solution. It often leads to conflict between the pickleball users and tennis users.
Well, you'd have to limit hours as one to the hour.
Well,
that's all.
especially if you add them to courts that are heavily used. If you have some courts that are minimally used or not used at all, then it's a great option.
Well, long-term, by the time you gain financing to do it, in the short term, is this not an option to make people satisfied for a while?
It is, but unfortunately, the Parks and Recreation Park doesn't have any tennis courts.
What's down at Plum Creek? Isn't there tennis courts now?
No.
Basketball.
All right. Oh, my mistake. I thought at one time there were.
No, we run
Bocce
tennis
ball.
programs at the high school.
You think on Ravenna Road, there used to be tennis courts.
All right. Okay. Is there any more? All right, Roger.
Yeah, not a question, but just a comment to Mr. Ruler's comment, if I may. And for the rest of our council, you know, we did kind of a deep dive on always holding ourselves to be a charter-driven community. And we're proud of that. We're proud of the fact we have a charter. In reviewing the charter, it is clear that Parks and Rec is responsible to City Council based on how it was developed. We look at the lines, the line staff development, they're responsible to City Council. Conversely, though, we're responsible for Parks and Recreation. If we believe the charter, we believe that we are a charter-driven community. So I think it's important that those conversations take place with that in mind. For too long, I think we've all bought into the idea that Parks and Rec was that poor stepchild we didn't want to talk about. And I don't think that was right, but I didn't understand until I actually looked at the charter that that's not how it really works. And so that's why I'm going to press for continuing conversations, press for hearing especially when we have, I think, right now, Melissa, you're on the Parks, you're our Parks representative. I think it's even more critical that that connection is made and it's clear, and that not only you guys responsible to council, but we're responsible for helping you in gaining your goals and getting to where you need to be. Not sure how that'll look, but that's just in response to Mr. Ruler's comments.
Okay, any more? If not, this was just to update us between the Parks and the City Council. Thank you for the presentation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
And thank you for the Parks people who are here. You have staff people here. That is wonderful to see staff people.
Okay, next up is the City and Kent States Partnership, and Dr. Dana has the tickets for the Ferris wheel that's out in Esplanade, and we're all going to get peanuts and feed the elephants.
I know. I mean, I was thinking we should end the meeting and all go take a ride. I mean, how
Yeah.
cool is that? So that is our Flash Fest. That is a 2-year in the making event where you may recall this idea of graduating seniors, making sure they know Kent State and the City of Kent is always their home. And so this is what the event is tied to do. And we started it 2 years ago, and this is year 3. And they brought a Ferris wheel, and when I drove over, it's pretty awesome out there. So it's always nice to come and give updates. It's my first time with the new council folks, and I'm excited to be with you. My name is Dana Lawless-Andrick, and I have the pleasure of serving as the liaison for the city and the university on town and gown relationships. And so what I do, Dave and I meet pretty regularly, is come before you with updates that we think might be of interest. So I'm going to share several of those. I'll pause for questions, and then I have some goodies that I passed out. I'll share that as well, because that is something that was a direct result of when I first started in the role. So some of you were there today. I know the chiefs were there. We celebrated Chief Dean Taddiglia's retirement party, 42 years serving the university, but certainly the broader community. And so it was so special. I know those who were in the room. I mean, wow. The people, FBI, his family, it was just special. And I know several of you know Dean, and if you get a chance to send a note, I know he'd appreciate it. His last official day is on Friday, but I'm sure he'll be around. But 42 years, pretty special. This week also marks our May 4th event, which I know you all are aware. We have a conference tomorrow with K-12 educators, university and community, focus on democracy and civic engagement and civil engagement, which we think is very relevant with all that's happening right now. So you may see some increased traffic around that. We have the Jerry Lewis Lecture Series, Showing a Fire in the Heartland, and then the Vigil and the Commemoration on Saturday. There is all of that information in the website. I also share it on the listserv, but I'll speak to that here in just a little bit. We've had an active spring semester, and I just really want to publicly acknowledge our partnerships with both chiefs and our safety forces. It's been paramount to really ensuring that with the types of events that have occurred, that we have marched in lockstep in ensuring safety while also protecting these valued civil liberties of free speech, and balancing that tricky slope. And it's just a real, I think, testament to the partnerships of communication. And so a lot has happened this semester. We have 2-ish weeks to go. I think we're ready for the kiddos to go home. They've been a little more active on the party scene too, but still good. I mean, you know, I hear these fun stories. I've been in Kent for 21 years. I lived in Kent back in the day, so I know some of the old parties that used to take place, so it still seems pretty mild to me. Let's keep it that way. So. We continue to partner with local restaurants and food trucks. That's been a big accomplishment. We're very proud. This also includes the Haymakers partnership. That's really, due to our new addition, Congress. I put you in Congress, Melissa.
See your paycheck.
I was like, I don't know if I should,
That's
how
next
formal
year.
I should be. So I was like practicing saying Councilwoman Selko, and then now you're on Congress. So there you go. You'd be great there.
That's something you're not telling us, Melissa?
I know. Prior to her leaving Kent State, this was a big project, and it's been great. Haymakers on campus twice a semester. It just really connects the community and the market. We have our food truck events where local food trucks come every Wednesday when the weather permits. And then also our downtown dining dollars. It's $100,000 dedicated of the students' meal plans to off-campus locations. And so that's continued, and so far about $78,000 has been utilized, and we have about 2 weeks left to go on those meal plans. I mentioned about the Flashes Forever Fest. We end the year like this, but we also start the year with Flashes First Thursday, which is a new event to really welcome not just but back the full community. We want to build on this each year, so stay tuned with Dominique's role, with Main Street Kent, the Chamber, just really celebrating the start of a year, and then this being kind of bookend of a close of the year. Some dates just referentially for you to know about. Classes conclude this week and finals are next week. We have Lavender graduation, our Kramu graduation. Those are pre-commencement events that take place. And then May 9th through 11th is our commencement ceremonies. And so you'll see increased traffic. Our restaurants obviously pick up. So lots of good stuff coming up. Some other kind of points of reference that I think is important for this body to know. You may be aware that our president testified in front of the Ohio Senate. Higher education continues to be under a lot of pressure and questions of our viability and our just a lot of headwinds right now. And so the president gave a really powerful testimony. It's available if you haven't seen it, about the impact and the contributions of public higher education in Kent State. Also some of our requests for capital improvement funds, some of which we partner with the city on. But we also are really managing, as you are too, just a fiscal climate that's been challenging. And if you've seen the news, higher ed in particular, the closure of institutions, I think we'll see more of that. Kent State's in a good position because we've had sound planning, and we have to have a balanced budget at the end of each fiscal year through our Board of Trustees. And we have a good plan, but it will require tough decisions and things that we'll be working on over the next several years. We are in a position of strength, and we want to remain there as opposed to reaction. If there's questions, you may hear things, but it's reorganization. It's looking at the types of programs that may need to be sunset and others that are growing. It's looking at consolidation of space, for example. So just a variety of those types of things. If you have ever questions, again, I share out on the listserv. I know Dave in his meetings with Todd talk about this, but it's important because we're so connected that you are aware of all of that too. A couple construction updates. Crawford Hall, you see it. It's got a name now on it. They'll be moving in July. The official opening will be in fall, and then the ceremonial piece will be during homecoming. The front campus green space will start this summer. The White Hall will continue to be a place in partnership with East Main Street work that's going to start as a place to launch and use for some of those projects. The band practice facility, which is part of the old ice arena, will be done for fall classes. And some of you may be aware we have a solar project that's on the Morgan parcel that's started, and that will generate 7.2 megawatts of ground-mounted solar, which I know also is some of the our collaboration with the climate plan and the different things the city has. And then the last two pieces I have, our Destination Kent State will start. You'll see 4,000 students and their families start coming the end of May, which is very exciting. Enrollment is expected to be strong for first-year students. Specifically, we're seeing increases in graduate and our international student populations.
That's what I wanted
So
to
you
know.
may remember where we really peaked with 3,000, I think that was 2017, 16,
Yeah.
17. We're really seeing an
Good.
increase, and we hope, we know the world is an interesting place right now, that will continue. But right now, I think all signs point to that for the fall. We're about 93% occupancy in our housing. We don't have updated capacity, I don't think, Bridget, do we? So we'll get updated capacity for apartments around. That always helps us kind of get a sense of what's going on in some of those trends. And then I wanted to end on kind of two really neat pieces. You may recall we do our Blue, Gold, and Grateful program, where it's an employee appreciation program during the months that are tougher, in particular January for our small businesses. Employees get $20 to use, and that generated almost $44,000 to our local businesses that take the Kent card, and that's super excited. And lastly, when Dave and I started meeting, and I came to this role in 2020, one of the biggest things I heard he shared is communication. I heard you talk about it with Angela. Half the problem is what you don't know, and then assuming what you don't when you don't hear. And so we've created the listserv that's grown over the years, but we also created this campaign, and what's really cool about it, you'll see the city, and then the O is actually the esplanade and the arches with the little, it's with a lot of thought put into this. And this brochure that we want to use to welcome new community members and businesses, they'll get a little DI hub squirrel. I don't have enough of these for all of you, I'm sorry, but you do get a magnet. And then this will be a tool we'll use so folks, in the community know some of the big things that happen at the university and also who to contact. So I tried to go fast, I punched a lot in, so any questions I can answer?
Any questions? Heidi?
Yeah, what's to become of the old business building?
Yeah, I think right now, I think everything I'm hearing is it's probably going to be demolished. It takes money to do that, but we have about 25% more space than we actually need right now. And the state of Ohio is also just really interested in lessening footprint. I mean, it takes a lot to maintain those facilities. It's an aging building. All of that's being assessed, though, because that takes money to demolish as well. So that's part of what's happening with this strategic budgeting and such.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Further questions? Seeing none? Oh, Chris?
Yeah, two questions.
Yeah.
One's an easy one, and one's potentially more challenging. The first is opening of Terrace Road.
Yeah. I don't have the exact time. I would venture July, because that's when the building's opening, but I guess I should say don't quote me, but you are in a public forum, so yeah, quote me.
You quoted
Yeah, no choice.
I will confirm that and get that to all of you, what that's planned to open.
And the second question is, I know that the university hasn't seen nearly the level of protest
Yeah.
as universities across the country. I do know that May 4th, there's a rally planned on the K at 12 p.m. on May 4th.
Yep.
I'm sure there are student groups doing smaller things all over the place that,
Yeah.
How is the university preparing or preparing to prepare, or
Yeah,
anything on that?
it's a very appropriate question, and I'd be concerned if I didn't get it, honestly, if you pay attention to everything going on. Our history is tied to this intimately, and this is bringing a lot of, I think, especially for those who were a part of that experience, a lot of just connections that maybe we would have hoped not to have to see.
Yep.
That being said, I think we learned some lessons that could be used to help in this time, and especially over the last 10 years, where I think as a university we've leaned in and embraced this part of our history in a much more meaningful way. And our School of Peace and Conflict Studies,
are efforts tied to how we honor May 4th and learn from May 4th. And because of that, we've worked close with our students to put policies and things together that do balance, you know, the freedom of speech, the important right to demonstrate, with safety and also honoring. You know, if we're part of May 4th last year, there was a silent demonstration that took place during May 4th. So, and then we have trained staff, and we also have the faculty program that the name is going to escape me right now. Any of my May 4th folks, the faculty who were so critical during May 4th, there's a name.
Jerry Lewis.
Lewis Senate?
There's a name of the faculty. Jerry was a part, they had a name. I'll find, but they were, it's just not going to come to me. But we brought that program back. So faculty, it's at the tip of my tongue. Yes, thank you, whoever said that. Marshals, the faculty marshals program. And then we have some policies in place too that are not too restrictive, and I think that's what we're seeing, right? We're just seeing universities grapple with how do we do this. And, you know, the history is unfortunate and hard. It's also allowed us to learn some important lessons, I think, to face this time, perhaps in a more meaningful way. So that's, you know, where we are right now, and we're ready. And part of that is because of the partnership we have with our safety forces. We collaborate, we talk to make sure, too, that we're working in tandem.
Just as a, I guess, are you gearing up for anything? Are you expecting anything significant?
There are groups that have said they're going to be there, so I think we're typically prepared on May 4th anyhow, because it just, you know, May 4th is May 4th, and it brings a variety of folks from different thoughts to the table, but absolutely, we're ready and prepared. Okay. The joke today for Dean was he picked his retirement day on May 3rd. So, but absolutely, we are prepared, we are aware, but there's not, to my knowledge, been like formal, sometimes we'll get formal, you know, like requests put in. I don't know that there's been formal requests put in, but there's been flyers and a lot of different things. So we're prepared for activity on that day.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I just want to say thank you so much, having been on both sides of the equation, working at the university, and then all the ways that you keep us connected and informed. I really appreciate it. Because I worked in student affairs, I can just speak to it, that most of the directors in student affairs are all trained to be both with our students, but also to monitor from technology standpoints, situations, and so we help expand the safety forces' eyes and ears. And our main objective always, and I'm sure it is now still, is safety and also openness, because we are a public institution and that's important. So.
Further? No? Thank you.
All
It's
right,
always nice.
you.
Thank you.
Dana.
Next on the agenda is the new City Hall construction. Melanie. Till July, huh? I didn't think so either.
Thanks, Mayor. That was a good opening. But quickly before I move to that, I also wanted to let council know that we will be closing Franklin starting this Saturday. First Saturday of May it can be closed, but we wanted to do that in conjunction with the fact that the university is done this week, finals next week, and then graduation, because we do get a lot of activity downtown for that. So just so that you're aware of it, it'll close Friday afternoon so that it's closed for the first Saturday. I'll get to the schedule in a little bit. But the building is moving along. If you haven't had a chance to see it, it is really kind of picking up a little bit of speed. As you noticed, we've been power washing the outside and cleaning that up, so it is looking a little different, a little nicer. Nice. If you have an opportunity and you haven't come from the north or over Haymaker Bridge, you really need to do it. It's an awesome, awesome, awesome thing. A week ago, Friday, or whenever we had our follow-up meeting for Eclipse, I was lucky enough to bring my husband, and we went to breakfast. And then we came down North Water, and he's like, "What is that building?" I'm like, "That's my new City Hall." And he's like, "That's a pretty big building." I'm like, "I know." So, you know, it was just awesome to be able to share that. Just to let you know, the elevator is being delivered next week, so that has also been another one of our delays. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it's coming from Cincinnati. It should be here and be installed immediately. With that, we've had to hold off on a few things there. As you know, power is in on that building. The inside is drywalled as much as we can drywall it. You know, the windows that haven't been installed are in council chambers and the doors. Those are the only two areas. The glass is here. It is actually on site, but temperatures have prohibited us from being able to do that. The fact that temperatures are getting higher and climbing, we're able to do that. It's not so much that we can't put the windows in, but the glazing can't be put in until we hit 65 and climbing. So that's what's been holding us back with that. So we're continuing to move with that. On the outside of the building, you'll see that the upper lightweight stone is being installed all the way around on the outside edge, so that is almost complete, and I think that looks really, really nice. It's kind of really beginning to tie it all together. The site work will begin at the beginning of June and should be completed by the end of June. That should go really pretty fast because there's a lot of that. They want to get rid of the trailers then, and they'll move inside for their meeting areas and their offices. The schedule itself was brought up at our last staff meeting, and they've received and they've passed on to me the newest schedule. It is a tentative schedule, and I was not happy with it, so I asked for a meeting next Wednesday, and our meeting next Wednesday will be dedicated completely to this. They'll be bringing in all of their subs for us to take a look at it. So I'm not willing to give what they said because I don't believe that it's realistic. I think that there's enough moving fastly and quickly on this building that while we've had a few setbacks with some of the delays on things, that once we're able to get in there, the amount that's drywalled already, that's really what was going to hold us up because all the electric and the HVAC and all of that's been installed. So we'll take a look at that and I'll get back to you. But what I would also like to do is I'd like to schedule for a walkthrough in June. I think that would be really exciting for you guys to see it as it's closing up, buttoning up. You'll actually be able to see council chambers, which is absolutely amazing. That is the only floor and room that's really like, I'm almost to the point that we could tape that, finish it, paint it, and move you in, and the rest of the building could just sit. It's moved really well. It's very, very nice, and the room itself is going to be really exciting to get into. So I'll see if the first meeting in June, maybe we can't do that walkthrough, especially since it's a little more daylight. Other than that, it's continuing to move, and it's picking up speed, so I'm feeling a little bit better about the project myself.
Okay. Any questions? Mr. DeLeon?
For some reason, every time I drive south, there looks like there's one pane of glass that's blue.
I'll have to take a look. I can't say that. Is it at the top? Is it in the middle?
Like
It's the third column.
third column.
Okay.
And the third piece of glass down. But it's just, I don't know if it's the way the sun's shining on it.
I can't say that I've ever noticed that.
But
You have smudge on your glass?
okay. Well, I have a smudge on my
Oh,
glass.
no, Mike, no, in fairness, Mike asked me, and so I drove and sat in the Walgreens parking lot so I could look
Okay.
across at it. One day it looked blue, the next day it didn't look so blue. So
I wonder if it's just
sun.
the glass.
It's got a greenish or brown.
It's like it's a different tint.
It's a
on the
different
glass.
tint.
Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't there glass going up above that too?
Yeah.
I guess I'm having a hard time envisioning where you're talking, but yes, there's
The
glass all the
tower.
way up on the front, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
Well,
it's,
there's
it's
top-
blocked off still.
Yeah, the top isn't done yet.
Oh, I was going to say, the top isn't done yet, but now don't forget that where the floors are located, and then that upper part, remember, behind that, you're not going to be able to see through that because the floor will be there. So
that's
you
the
may
blue
see a
would be.
different shade where those are at, because
But
it
it's
wouldn't
just
be like
one-
you're able to see
No,
through.
it's just one pane of glass.
All right,
I'm
well,
like-
I will take a
I'm
look.
like-
I can't
just
say,
went, what
people
the
have
heck's
noticed that
going
the
on?
building, they think the
I said, I
brick is
better-
different.
I
I'll take a
better
look
look
at the
at
glass.
those
I'll make sure if we have to, we'll pull it out.
Yeah, it may just be me.
No, but then it disappeared the next day, so.
I just said, maybe just the way the sun's hitting it or something. I don't know.
Anybody else? If not, thanks, Melanie.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to ask a motion from the floor so we can move streets and sidewalks up to the next discussion.
So moved.
Chris, is there a second?
Second.
Mike? We have people actually here, the rest are all staff. So
Very good.
at this time, we're going to move it. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. Now we're going to move into streets and sidewalks and utilities, Mr. Sidoti.
Yes, we're going to talk about the semi-truck parking in neighborhoods. Is that Bridget, or who's that?
Well,
Oh,
actually,
no, it's Hope.
I could start it off. As you recall, when this was first brought to our attention, I believe that council had, and the police department was just going to take a look at it, talk to the person, and it's my understanding that it worked for a little bit, and the tractor trailer left, and then about a week ago, we found out that it was back. And Dave said, full speed ahead, let's bring a parking of commercial vehicles in residential areas, both on public, it's already restricted on public property. This would restrict it on private property as well, except if there's a breakdown in the neighborhood, loading and unloading purposes. And that will effectively get this family relief and anyone else in the rest of the town that might have a problem with commercial vehicles in their neighborhoods.
Well, she uses the phrase commercial vehicles, but we had an internal meeting with police, everybody, and there was a lot of discussion of, well, it's not just any commercial vehicle, because we have a lot of those. Everything from, like, you can have a car with, or a van that's commercially used, that's parked, and you have a different size trucks. So, or landscaping, but we ended up landing on, let's just stick to the semi-tractor trailer for now. And you can always change it if we find we have another need, but we think there'd be a lot of unintended consequences.
Right.
I think there's a lot more than you realize, like she said, landscape trucks and all those things. So for now, the matter that's before us is semi-tractor trailer, and that's the way she wrote up the change to prohibit that on overnight, whatever, however the wording is.
It's, well, at all. And then I did add a section that talked about refrigerated vehicles, that they cannot be on between
7 a.m.
Yes, 7.
6P to 7A, unless they're being loaded or unloaded.
So it's a fairly minor, it's not a lot to it. It's just pretty, she's got it in your packet, and that's, so you should see it. And we're here to answer any questions, and we recommend doing it if you're looking for staff recommendations, so.
Oh, wait a minute,
There's the chairman. He's chairman. I'm secondary now, or third, maybe fifth.
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, now, you're saying the refrigerated trucks. Now, what about the ones that park like at the University Plaza and have the refrigerated trucks, the refrigerated units going all night long?
Is that a residential area?
Well, it is right across the street. But then again, I don't know how that applies.
The way it reads, no person shall park any commercial tractor, trailer, or tractor, truck, trailer, or semi-trailer with refrigeration unit left operating from 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. of the following day on public or private property adjacent to a residential use, except as necessary for loading and unloading.
Okay, so that would apply to that.
Yeah.
Okay, but it hasn't happened for a long time, but it may. But it used to bother some of the people that live up on that other side. There's only 3 houses there. But they would run all night. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 of them. But they just got used to it. Now
Like
they
on
don't have to.
Franklin?
Yeah, you're right.
On Cherry Street.
On Cherry, okay.
Down Cherry.
Yeah.
Right across, right the parking lot from the
Yeah.
movie theaters. Okay, I was just quick. All right.
Okay, any other questions? Jeff?
So what specifically vehicles are prohibited from being parked in a residential neighborhood then?
Commercial tractor, truck, trailer, or semi-trailer.
So I don't know if we maybe need to add just something like a gross vehicle, like I know that even as much as like a Ford F-250 pickup, you can sticker for over or under 10,000 pound gross vehicle weight rating for its commercial use or not. So if we need to put that in there, because what if somebody has a small box truck or something similar to that, like is it going to make are we including box truck, flatbed truck, or just put a vehicle weight rating on there to kind of cover all those bases? I don't know how other cities are doing it. I see signage.
Two weights.
Yeah. I see signage for roads, I see signages for all kinds of different things based on weight that'll kind of cover a lot more bases, I think.
And it would, and
Yeah.
it would, but what weight would it be where, I guess if you don't care if, like a, you know,
10,000 pounds is generally the breakout where
10?
10,000
Okay.
is for like, you can get a commercial vehicle rating. Over 26,000 pound rating is for CDL, but you could put some trucks side by side, and depending on how they're rated, they could look identical once you get up into that weight category.
we
So
can
maybe
go
see
weight
what-
if you would like.
Maybe just see what some other cities are doing, 'cause I don't know what the best way to do it
I know when
is.
I worked in Cuyahoga Falls, it was 10,000.
Okay, that's kind of where I figured the cutoff would be for commercial.
But can I ask, is that going to be a problem for a landscape company dump truck that parks.
A dump truck, yes.
Maybe, yes.
We have a lot of
A
those.
pickup truck, I don't know.
That parks in the street?
A lot more than, like, people, just in our meeting, we're like, well, there's one here, there's one there. I mean, and so we were like, we're not getting complaints about that class of truck. We're getting complaints. So we tried to keep it specific to the complaint. That's not to say we can't change it later. We were trying to keep it to the semi-tractor trailer.
Right.
Because that was obviously, like, when you look at the pictures, it's not, what is Bridget's word, harmonious with the surrounding neighborhood.
Right.
Where, I mean, some of the dump trucks are smaller, they're, you know.
And they might be stored in barns or on the back of
U-Haul
covers or
truck.
whatever.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
we did it at like where CDL cutoff, like commercial driver's license cutoff is at 26,000 pounds, then I guess that covers a few more bases. That'd be somebody that's actually using that for industry at that point.
Would a cab alone
That's my
hit
question.
that?
The rating on it is gonna be way over that.
Okay.
The rating for that semi is gonna be 80,000 pounds.
Okay.
And empty, it's gonna be 25,000 pounds. Just by, so there's the what it's rated to use and then what it actually weighs.
Heidi?
Yeah, it'll be rated for 80, it should be licensed, the minimum you can license it
rated
for is
for?
52,000 pounds, is the minimum you can license it for. Up to 80,000 pounds.
Heidi?
That was my question
That
about
was
the
your
cab.
question, okay.
The cab, yeah, and how we can distinguish that.
So that would be over that weight rating.
So it's rated to
Right.
carry, to
Yeah, so when you license it,
hold?
you have to pick a license category, and the minimum for that, for 3 axles, is basically 52,000 pounds is the minimum you can be at.
I think I might be able to answer the question.
Yeah.
So, it's not, the law wouldn't be written based on what the cab of the truck itself weighs. It's based on the gross vehicle weight rating.
Right.
So I think that's what
Yeah, that's what
Mr. Clapper, you're trying to say is, the gross vehicle weight rating for any semi-truck would never be less than 52,000, regardless of
Right.
what the cab weighs. So any commercial semi-truck would always be prohibited.
All right,
Correct.
But wait a minute, not if we just say 10,000 pounds, we're not talking about gross weight, or.
I was talking about gross weight when I said that, because usually that's the tipping point for commercial registration is 10,000 pounds gross vehicle weight rating.
Doing 10.
And
Okay,
quite
we're not doing
frankly.
10.
No.
10's on the table.
Chief, my question is, well, okay, well, I guess the point, you don't have scales, so you're not weighing anything, but you would go based on the markings, whatever the truck is rated, it's got to show what it's,
So when we file for our license plates, you have to fill out a form, a federal form, and you have to pick your weight category. And so I don't know if that's in the database where you see what weight category they have that vehicle registered at. And you can buy a vehicle, you can go buy a brand new Ford F-250 and say, I want it to be rated for this, or I want it to be rated for that. And it looks identical, and it's all identical. Just what did you pick to make it so you could drive it one way or another?
Yeah, when we check a plate, it will tell us what it's rated for. So we don't need scales or anything like that. It's got a gross vehicle weight designation associated with the registration of the vehicle.
so for Hope's purposes, say again, the rating you would see for a semi-tractor trailer, so she should add that, would be, what is that weight?
A minimum weight that a semi-tractor could be rated at, I guess if it had 3 axles, could be 52,000 pounds.
Okay.
But anything over 26,000 pound rating requires a CDL, and that's when you get into like your bigger box trucks, your bigger flatbed trucks, anything like that. And that's a pretty significantly, it could look like a semi-tractor, but it might have a bed on it. So you get into some pretty significantly big trucks at that point.
It's more complicated than you thought.
Yeah.
It is, and I still don't know what to put
Yeah, we
in.
can go into
I still
federal
don't know
roadway
what to put in
formula and all
Section A,
that. Yeah.
what we're prohibiting.
Well, should we not worry about the weight for now and just stick to the definition of a semi-tractor trailer?
I think that'd be.
But does that open it up to somebody now is doing Amazon deliveries and has a big, 26-foot box truck they're parking in their driveway with the same diesel engine and the same everything that semi-tractor had? But that vehicle is,
But we're not experiencing that today.
I know, but do we want to come back when we are, if we are?
Well,
If we
I'm
do.
trying to avoid the law of unintended consequences
Mhm.
and stick to the problem. I
Oh,
mean,
that's fine
we're
with me.
fine to add more.
We can always add later, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, that's good.
absolutely,
Yeah.
anytime.
Yeah, Heidi?
So just to clarify, though, this would not I'm looking at Jeff.
Yeah.
But the chief too. This would not include like a food truck, small business kind of thing that somebody has, because I do know some people that, you know, they're.
I can't imagine a food truck with a gross vehicle weight rating of 26,000 pounds or more on a food truck.
I don't know about that.
I don't know.
Well, we're just gonna say semi-tractor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Semi-tractor, let's leave it at that.
You're gonna have another problem, you bring your food trucks in here.
Yeah. Other questions?
Yeah,
Chris?
could I ask Hope to sort of restate the concerns from the person raising the initial complaint?
They're here, but
Oh, hello. Do you,
That's up to chairman over there.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd
we
love
could,
to
we can go to the audience,
Well, yeah.
we can do
Yeah.
that.
Or can you go to the mic?
Would you like to come to the mic? And as the mayor would say, your name and address, right, Mr. Mayor, for the...
Okay, Laura Manaki, 503 Laurel Drive, Kent. And I was the one that originally brought this problem. This is my daughter lives at 203 South Pearl Street, and across the street from her at 202 South Pearl Street was a driver who was bringing home just the tractor, not the trailer, parking it in his driveway. I provided you with photos. You weren't here, so to show the size of the tractor. This tractor, I was told by the safety director of the company that he drives for, weighs 30,000 pounds. Now, the city already has ordinances prohibiting driving anything over 5 ton on our streets on anything other than a state route. So that would include South Pearl, but the police actually have to see the vehicle on the street. So the fact that the vehicle was parked and he is idling it in his driveway and starting it anywhere from 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:15, 4:30. In the wintertime, idling 30 to 45 minutes. In the spring, more like 15 to 20 minutes. The compression, the vibrations that caused created a lot of problems. Not just with my daughter, who actually got physical ailments from it, but also the rest of the neighborhood that I canvassed. I had 11 or 12 neighbors that also signed a paper saying they did not like the truck there, although I guess I'm the only one that wanted to stand up to them. And now that has created some other problems. But the tractor, like, I'm not sure, like, you don't really see people, like, I know you're talking about the cab and the trailer, like what Carter Lumber delivers with. People don't bring those home. And most semi-drivers don't bring their tractors home either. This is a benefit that this company allowed. But I just don't think it has any place in any residentially zoned neighborhood. You know, imagine it being parked, 10 feet from it had to have been rattling dishes in the neighbor houses with what it was doing at her house, which is across the street. So it was significant. So I don't know if that answers your question or if there's anything else, that you want to ask.
Chris, anything else?
No, I think that's helpful to
Mr.
hear.
Doral?
I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Oh, I mean, I just, now the problems are worse. This will help, but, it's just escalated with some childish harassment behavior.
Yeah.
So,
Mike?
Now, if we drove up to South Pearl right now,
it's not there.
no, but there's a flatbed
Yep.
tow truck sitting
That's
there.
on the street.
Probably gonna eliminate that one too. No?
It's a flatbed tow truck with a,
Same
tilt
place,
bit.
same house?
No.
No,
It's
it's
a few streets up.
That's not
It's
your
parked on the
daughter's
street.
husband's truck, is it?
No. He works for DD Tree. He doesn't bring
I was gonna say,
All right, parked on the street?
It's on the street.
on the street, and that
I'm
actually should be
interested in hearing
against
what
the
you have to
ordinance already if it's over 5 ton. I don't know if it is or not.
Oh, sure it
Because
is.
Yeah.
the ordinance already states, so that's something, I mean, I'm not here for that. I don't even really want, I don't want him starting the truck before the quiet hours of Kent. I just don't think that's fair for anybody to have to go through that and live with that kind of sound, the compression, the vibrations.
Okay, hang on for a second. Mr. Turner, you have a question.
No, let her finish.
I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I kind of was listening to Dave. We're losing a little focus based on what her complaint. If we could narrow it down, looking at what she requested initially.
Well, actually, the only way to keep him from doing it was to.
Yeah, hang on for a minute, because we have to follow procedure here. Okay, continue, Mr. Turner.
The issue was to look at a more focused approach to the issue of the semi. Because I know exactly what you're talking about. I had guys come down the street, they start parking on the street with a semi. It first off, and using, as Dave said, bridges to it, it was not harmonious to the neighborhood. I think it had other implications, quality of life issues when people starting up vehicles, the noise, the pollution, all those aspects. If we focused on trying to deal with particularly that, and it's the way that that vehicle is configured that is a diminution of quality of life in that area and inharmonious. I would like to focus on where we are on that, the weight, stuff like that, which can be an issue and something I think eventually we're going to have to deal with, because it does diminish the roads, stuff like that. But right now, dealing with the issue that you brought to us, I think if we could look at the semi, as Dave was saying, and then when other issues come up, we can start trying to deal with those, kind of layered a little bit. Because I totally agree with where you're coming from, and I can appreciate it because I've had it happen in my neighborhood as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rod.
Yeah, Mike?
Well, I just think it might, with that other truck parked on there, like, you just told me it's a commercial vehicle parked on the street. And this guy's gonna say, well, how come he could park his commercial truck out in the street and I can't bring my truck home?
Because his vehicle isn't a commercial tractor, trailer, or semi-trailer. It's.
It is with a flatbed on it, though.
I mean, we could.
Yeah.
Could you read that? Could you read
that?
Exactly what
No
it would
person
say?
shall park, and I did scratch out truck. I don't like truck in here.
Right.
No person shall park a commercial tractor, comma, trailer, comma, or semi-trailer on public or private property adjacent to a residential use.
Okay. That would help the low boy. Yeah.
I think that addresses the immediate concern.
So, is there any other comments from council or questions? And if not, do I hear a motion?
I would move.
I'll second that.
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
Emergency.
Robin.
I'm sorry.
Robin.
Oh, Robin made the motion.
With an I second.
Okay. All those, any more comments? If not, all those, go ahead, Chris.
I just have one comment. I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, but I just want to make sure that we are not going about this the wrong way, and we should be regulating the vibration. We should not be looking at the noise and how it's violating those existing ordinances. If by regulating, it seems like we're going the regulation of the infrastructure, the truck, and not the noise, not the rattling. I guess I'm wondering if this would open us up to any legal liability from the person who owns the truck, the company who owns the truck, that we're creating a law based on one neighbor complaint.
There are, when I am asked to draft new ordinances, the first thing I do is go to American Legal, who is our publisher of municipal ordinances. And I go to the state of Ohio and I start putting in search terms. You would not believe how many, I think it's more often than not that towns and cities will exclude these types of vehicles out of residential areas than allow them in some way, shape, or form. So I'm confident that this is okay. We'll be fine.
Okay. Any other? Yes, Heidi.
Yeah, I think it's not just the noise, but it's kind of the nature of it that it must create that kind of noise. So it just comes along with that type of vehicle. So I feel like, yes, we may end up coming back and talking about other types of vehicles or refine this a little bit more, but I feel good about voting yes to this because I certainly wouldn't want this issue to get duplicated across the city, and I think we do need some kind of leverage in this situation to protect our residential areas.
Any other comments, Jack?
Yeah, I would agree with Heidi, and I don't think any of us would want that situation. None of us. So, and I'm sorry that you had to go through that. So, but I'm glad we can remedy it. So.
Seeing no other comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. There you go, Mr. Mayor.
Just so that you guys know, too, it'll take 2 weeks. Council will vote this into law in 2 weeks, so sit tight for a while. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
All right, we're going to move back up to the agenda of community development. Mrs. Rosenberg.
Yes. Here comes Bridget for the continuation of Davy Tree Enterprise Zone Agreement.
Yes, for members that are new on council, the Enterprise Zone is a program through the Ohio Revised Code. It allows for tax exemptions for significant investment in real property by a company and commitments to payroll and to employment. Davy, the city entered into an agreement with Davy in 2021 for the third wing expansion at their main corporate campus. They moved in 2023. They have already exceeded their payroll commitment, which they had 3 years to meet, and are steadily moving towards their employment. There is a requirement in the Ohio Revised Code that a tax incentive review council, which is a county entity of which the city has representatives on, vote to review and vote on enterprise zones annually, and that the legislative authority affirm the tax incentive review council recommendations. The Tax Incentive Review Council recommended continuing the enterprise zone agreement, and I am here to request council affirm that with emergency.
Thank you. Any questions from council? All right. So what we're looking for is accept and approval of the recommendation. So I'm going to need a motion.
Move to authorize.
Second.
There you go.
All right.
With the emergency.
With emergency.
With the emergency.
Second.
Excellent. Do we have any comments from council? Anyone from the audience?
Missed that part.
Yeah, you did, but that's okay.
But we're okay.
We're okay.
We can go back if you guys have comments. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Nope. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to Finance
That was
Committee.
true, but I didn't
Somehow
want to interrupt you.
she's last on the agenda again. Go figure.
She did. She did
Mr.
a very,
DeLeon.
she
it's
did a
all
very
yours.
nice job on the door earlier.
Yeah, she had the door well.
Proposed operating levy renewal.
Okay, so the first item we have is, we have a 1.16 general fund levy is coming up to expire, and we have 3 chances to get this passed by the voters. So we're trying to get this on November's election, so that way we can get this renewed and passed the first time, and we don't have to do this again. So this levy, it brings in about $340,000 as a renewal. If we were to get this as a replacement levy, we're looking at $570,000. But by doing that, you take away, there's some homestead and rollback taxes that the residents currently, under a renewal, will not have to pay. The state covers those costs. And if we do a replacement, then the residents would have to cover 100% of that. So as you see, it costs them currently $22 per year for a $100,000 house. And if we did a replacement, it'd be almost $41 per year for a $100,000 house. So we're recommending just to continue with a renewal.
Questions?
So is there any stipulation for, since we met with Parks and Rec today, is there anything related to the operations that would, no?
Well, I mean, in terms of the renewal, so the renewal is already, accounted for in our current budget. We talked about if there was any desire to try a replacement, I felt like, and she agreed, it would almost have to be tied to something. Like,
Yes.
I don't think just floating it to the voters and saying,
We
we need more money, which we do, but we're not in such a situation that is dire enough to raise taxes. We haven't raised taxes, I can't remember the last time we raised. So we're proud of that. We're proud of the fact the income taxes continue to stay steady, and so, I think that's a fair question to ask. If you all, I wouldn't tie it to this levy though right now, because I think there's too much lead time that would need to happen to kind of say, hey, we're going to ask for a replacement and we're going to use the extra $200,000. We're going to make that specifically for Parks and Rec to use for these things. That takes time.
Yeah.
I don't think we need this to pass.
Right.
So I would say for the right now, save that, because Parks isn't really quite ready yet either, right? They're still early enough in the process. You'll have other bites of the apple, and you have other ways that you can support them too.
Right.
So that would be right? Is that fair?
That's correct. Fair.
Further questions? Anybody in the audience?
No, you're just.
I'm just kidding. Back to council.
Move to approve.
Second,
With
with the
emergency.
emergency.
Further discussion?
Go ahead, you were first.
No, I don't have any discussion.
You know, I just, out of curiosity, so in November, it'll be on the ballot, and then, so between now and November, we'll start the process.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Very good.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Now where we at? New funds.
The two items that are next is the new funds. We are asking to create a health department fund, because currently the health department receives a lot of federal funding. And it's difficult because the health department is commingled with the general fund. And it would be so much easier, it would be easier for the auditors, they've requested it as well, to have this as a separate special revenue fund, because they get the grant money, it has to be special revenue. And then we could then see it as its own fund. You would see the money coming in, the money going out, any transfers that would be needed for operations. So I'm requesting for that fund. The other fund that we're asking for is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board had their number 84, which is related to fiduciary funds, which is the agency fund. And a couple years ago, they made us reevaluate the funds that are in agency funds. So there's some deposits and bonds that we have that are financial statements we have to pull out of the agency funds and then show it as a separate fund for financial statement purposes only. So we would like to create a new fund to take those out, so we don't actually have to do that at the end of the year, every single year, and try to figure out how much we have to take out. So we'd like to create that fund as well.
Further questions?
Yeah,
Any
Mike.
questions?
So what would we call that fund then?
Which one?
The-
So the one is going to be just the health department fund, and then
Yep.
the other one is going to be bonds and deposits fund.
Okay.
Right. And then once you, if you approve, I have to then apply to the state auditor's office and get their approval as well.
Heidi?
So this is basically, the one is for transparency, kind of like just to be able to see the flow in and out, and the other one is more for efficiency. Like, because
Pretty much, yes. It's to make it easier for the auditors, easier for us, so we're not having to try to figure out at the end of each year how much activity during the year has to be transferred out into another fund. Because for financial statement purposes, we're already showing that separately. So
And
now
the-
we can just show it in
These
this.
are things that council has to approve.
Yes.
Interesting, okay.
But
Further-
state auditors also have to approve it as well.
Oh.
Further from council? Questions? Anybody in the audience?
I would move to authorize, can I do both?
Thi-
Both of them?
I think it's just one item, but.
It's just one item,
One
and they're
item,
both
yes,
covered,
but
yes.
it covers both. I would move to authorize that with emergency.
Second. Seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, last but not least is our appropriation amendment request. This is our second of the year. Light, but
You had a list there, I've seen it. Is there any questions on the list? It was in our packet. Anybody in the audience? Back to council.
Move to approve.
Second. Go ahead.
Okay. That's already
With the emergency.
With the emergency.
with the emergency, yes. With the emergency. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
thank
We're
you.
That, we're adjourned.